Welcome to Tell Us Why, a podcast for the financial freedom community. If you're looking to succeed in your quest for financial freedom, make sure you join us every week as we, along with our guests, discuss different stories of success, how they were achieved, and how you can do the same. And of course, we ask them to tell us why. Here are your hosts, Jack and Mike.
Welcome to the Tell Us Why podcast. I'm your host, Jack Darapel, here alongside my co-host, Mr. Michael Ketchen. Today we are talking with Dan the Bourbon Man. Dan created Dan the Bourbon Man, an Instagram page, and his following quickly grew organically due to the rising demand for allocated bourbons and timely content. What Dan once started as a passion project with a goal to get some free swag and bourbon bottles from distilleries became an advertising/marketing asset that was generating income. Due to demand skyrocketing for hard-to-find whiskey and frustrations growing amongst bourbon enthusiasts not being able to find bourbons that they like for a good price, Dan saw an opportunity to further connect with his audience. So he launched his website, danthebourbonman.com, and created a community of bourbon hunters that report the good whiskey deals they find throughout the site. And an exclusive VIP subscription was also launched with time to VIPs in the area. The website also uses exclusive barrel picks with distilleries and an influencing page.
Oh boy, not your best work.
Not my best work.
Not your best work.
But before we get to Dan's episode, Dan the Bourbon Man's episode, Mike, what's happening in the business?
I'm just hoping the listeners didn't tune off after that intro.
They should. That was brutal. I tried to slow down and not screw it up, and I can't even read. I just don't know.
You really can't. And 50 plus episodes, we haven't changed that yet. That's amazing.
It's consistent. I'm consistent.
Consistency.
And that's what it's all about.
The only thing worse than Jack's reading are these rising interest rates and the effect they have on the market. Flew down, looked at a property, actually passed on it, came back to the seller about some possible seller financing because she knows and I know things are shifting. Times they are changing. So gear up. I think it's definitely a time to get some liquidity. Make sure you're taking steps to align yourself with some capital partners. I think there's going to be some real good opportunities in the next 6 to 18 months.
Yeah. Where was that, in Savannah?
No, it was in South Carolina, but I stayed in Savannah because it's actually closer to go from Savannah than Charleston.
Because Christian, a prior guest, was talking about Savannah, how Savannah has like some grandfathering restrictions on Airbnbs, and he was asking, I meant to talk to you about this offline, so we're going to do it right here, right now. But
okay,
Savannah, if you have to be grandfathered in to be able to Airbnb, something along those lines. So something for real estate investors to look out to.
And to be clear on that, I would dig deeper because grandfather can mean a lot of things. For example, the Airbnb I stayed in downtown Savannah was an apartment building recently remodeled. So this is why having established regulations and understanding how to move in those regulations is so important. Don't just jump in. It's just like an HOA, right? There's tiers to this. There's levels. If you're looking at a property with an HOA, you got to go look at the HOA and the regulations because sometimes they might not align. You might be allowed to do it, and the HOA of a complex doesn't allow it, or the HOA might not have specific language, but the town might say you can't do it. So you got to be thorough. You got to do your due diligence, and that's why this stuff is so important.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Speaking of important, nothing was more important than this week's episode because this was unbelievable. I've been following this guy's journey on social media since he started, something I'm passionate about, whiskey, in particular bourbon. And to see how this guest has been able to basically take a social media model and use the tools that are available to everyone today to kind of make this almost like a side hustle and grow this while working a full-time job is super impressive. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, I was just impressed. Well, first of all, he made fun of me for fanboying on the last episode. So with Christian. So Mike in this episode is fanboying.
I go a little Jack on him,
But I really liked, he's talking like he loved bourbon, so he self-educated himself. Like whatever it is, self-education is always an option. There's always an option to make money in whatever you enjoy. Get out there and learn about it. And then I love the hunt, the primal instincts is what I wrote down, the hunt of the bourbon. I can totally dig that. So it's really, really interesting to hear something that I've never really paid attention to.
We called it hunting for Dusties. So if you find a Dusty or a unicorn, you're in good shape. So,
Poppy Van Winkles.
All right. But before we bring in the episode, should we hear this week's episode is brought to us by?
Let's do it.
Are you sick of being treated like just another number by large insurance companies? Do you want a more personalized experience with somebody that you can trust? With Keith Monteith, that's exactly what you'll get. Keith is an experienced professional who can design an insurance plan tailored to fit your specific needs. With access to over 30 insurance carriers, Keith is able to shop numerous markets to find a price that works for you. So if you want an insurance agent that you can rely on and one that has your best interests at heart, then call or text Keith today on 978-241-2363. That's 978-241-2363. Keith Monty. He'll get you covered.
Okay, so our guest today is Dan the Bourbon Man. Is he a bourbon expert? Probably. I'll let him weigh in on that. Yes, he knows what's in bourbon, but more importantly, knows how to find that special bottle of bourbon or whiskey. He has created a network that finds and reports his successes in acquiring that newly released or long-desired bottle within his online community. So, Mike, Dan the Bourbon Man, I know you're a whiskey guy. I feel like you're going to geek out on this episode.
I gotta say, Dan, first, thank you for being here. All right. Reached out to Dan on Instagram. Hope I didn't come off too stalkerish. So I'm like, hey, Dan, I'm a big fan of, everything you got going on. But thank you for being here. And I've probably got about 8 hours of questions. So we're going to try to keep this to our nice, neat 30, 40 minutes to be respectful. But telling the people at home, Dan the Bourbon Man, whiskey drinking, where are you at right now with this? Because I'm just blown away. And then we'll start getting into the questions. But what's going on? What led you to this? Where are you at with the community you're building right now today?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk to you guys. Where I am today. Well, in my personal life, I'm a dad to 2 amazing kids, a husband to an incredible wife. Professionally, I have a great job in the TV industry, and I run my Dan the Bourbon Man Instagram and newly formed TikTok pages, plus my website, danthebourbonman.com. I also do some affiliate marketing with Amazon through the Amazon influencer account. But where I am really today with what we're here to talk about, Dan the Bourbon Man, is creating a community of bourbon hunters, bourbon enthusiasts throughout the country, and hopefully one day throughout the world, where, unfortunately, it's become really hard to find the bottles that you love, the bottles that you want to try for a good price. But, I used to drink, I was drinking bourbon back in like 2012, and I would go into the liquor store and I could pick up a bottle of Blanton's, let's say.
Oh, I was about to say it. Yep.
Yeah. For like $40. I gifted them to like all of my groomsmen when I got married. And it wasn't like a hard thing to do. You just go down to the store and you get it. Now you can't find it anywhere. And if you do, it's 2 to 3 times the retail price. Not to mention that the price has skyrocketed just for MSRP. Yep. So I've really resonated with the frustration in the community, and I saw an opportunity within that to connect with the community and bring everybody together and to hunt bourbon better. And to do this through social media, through my website, which offers like a reporting mechanism where you can go onto my website, and let's say you're in a store and you see that bottle of Blanton's and it's $60 and it's a good price and there are more left. You could report it on my website, and then we will blast out that alert, that bourbon alert, to the community.
Can I jump in there, Dan?
Yeah,
I want to kind of set the stage. So to tell everybody what's going on, for those who may or may not be big whiskey connoisseurs and geeks like me and Dan are here, we call it hunting. It really is called bottle hunting. So you're looking for your Dusties, you're looking for your unicorns. You've got all the different terminology we can geek out with here. So in setting that stage, I really want people to understand, at Dan's point, this is an industry. Like that bottle of Blanton's, I picked one up last week. I kid you not, MSRP $90 when that same bottle was $45 before. So the way I stumbled upon Dan is exactly what you're talking about, that problem of I can't be the only one experiencing this. This is becoming ridiculous. There's price gouging. They're still making the same amount of juice. And in fact, they're making more because the industry's just exploded. how do we solve it? So by setting that stage for us hunters, for really tapping into that psychology of us who are addicted to this, Jack, I can't even describe it. It's not even necessarily drinking the juice. It's the hunt. It's the pursuit of getting this. It's like big game hunting. Tapping into that was brilliant, Dan. And was that kind of the understanding that the way we're all obsessed with this hunt, is that what kind of led to the launching of this community?
It is what led to the launching of the community, yes. Just because there is such high demand these days and what feels like such low supply. But I did want to also show people that there are good deals out there. You just have to know where to look. And usually those deals come with relationships that you have with the stores. So I encourage going to like your local stores and making relationships with them, becoming a regular. It also comes down to luck. I've been lucky before. I remember one time I was like flying into London for work, and I knew of a liquor store I really wanted to go to because I had been there before and it had a good selection. And I purposefully chose my hotel to be right around the corner from that liquor store. So I land at 8 p.m. and I the first thing I do before I even drop my bags off is go to that liquor store, and I asked them, "Oh, hey, do you have anything special?" And there's oh yeah, there's Van Winkle Lot B on the shelf, and it was 115 pounds.
Did you buy it all? Or did you...
There was only one bottle, and I got it. But it comes down to luck. It comes down to relationships, and it comes down to being a part of a community that is looking out for you and really going to let you know when and where there are good drops, because it is all about the hunt.
Oh yes.
People want what they can't have. And I mean, that's kind of what started me out in this whole bourbon journey, was the elusiveness of unicorns like your Pappy Van Winkles and things like that. Right. Talking amongst friends, oh, you can't even find this stuff. And when I really realized that there was this trend of high demand and low supply, when I was in Vegas for a bachelor party, and my friends all I want is Blanton's. All I want is Blanton's. Please get me some Blanton's, because I was obviously in charge of getting the liquor. And I go to Total Wine in Vegas, and I ask them where is it? And they're oh, you can't find that anymore. It's impossible to find. And I'm that's odd. And then I made a really good relationship with a store around the corner from where I was living in New York City. And, I asked them if they had any Pappy Van Winkle, and he's oh yeah, I have one in the back. Here you go. And that really started my love for hunting.
So, I got to tell my favorite story, just aside, because Dan, you'll appreciate this, and very few people in my life will. So I live in New Hampshire, where it's the state allocation. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in the smallest New Hampshire state liquor store in Plastown, New Hampshire, the town my wife's from. And I was like a little kid on Christmas. I always check. They have that little special glass container.
Yeah.
200 times. She always busts my balls. There's never nothing there. But you talked about luck. I go in. I see Thomas H. Handy, MSRP, $80.
Oh, my God.
I refuse to move. I start screaming for my wife, who's on the other end of the store. I'm screaming now. A grown man screaming. She comes running over. She's like, "What's wrong?" I go, "You need to go get someone who works here right away. I'm not moving." I was so afraid. No one else is in the store. I am so afraid someone is going to come into the store and see this. So here's what happened. They're supposed to auction off these bottles in New Hampshire. That's how they do it. It's an auction.
Oh, okay.
The girl fucked up, didn't know what it was, and put it out that day.
Amazing.
So she comes over. She's like, "Sir, you okay?" I go, "Yes, I just really want that bottle." She hands it to me. You would have thought I was like the guy in Lord of the Rings, with my precious. I go up to the counter. I've got two hands. I'm cradling this thing. I don't want to take my eyes off it because I think it's not real. Like I'm terrified. And I got a bottle of Thomas H. Handy for $89 that I probably could have flipped for $5 or $6. I drank every sip of that thing and I cherished every moment. So that is my favorite unicorn getting lucky story right there.
We need to get a video, security footage from that story. Can we get a date when that happened? I'll pay for that footage.
Oh my God. So Dan, yes, thank you. You're the only person I can share this with because these guys don't get it. So I had to geek out there. So I want to touch on the psychology though of using social media to what you identify. So taking the bourbon out of it for a second, because we'll come back to that. When you understood the supply and demand, how does one go about kicking off one of these communities, one of these pages, one of these email alerts? Because to me, on the outside, I've been so impressed with that because it almost seems like overwhelming. And then you tell me you got this job, these kids, and you're still doing it. And your growth, as someone who's been following you for a while, it's been awesome to witness. How do you leverage social media to start building that kind of community around a niche product?
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think the social media following absolutely helped in growing that community, and it grew quite quickly. And when I started it, all the alerts were completely free, and I was doing the free alerts very, very often, like at least like 3 newsletter emails a day. So people joined up quite quickly, and I think we hit like 7,000 in the community that joined the list like in a month or so. And you know, like I started Dan the Bourbon Man, the Instagram channel, really as just like a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
I was into bourbon. I was very passionate about it. I wanted to learn more about it. So as I was hunting, I was looking at different bottles in my Instagram feed and other people who were, you know, taking pictures and sharing their finds before me. And I was saying, oh, you know what? Like if they can do it, well, I can do it. Yeah. And I've got some ideas and, you know, how to grow this, and we'll see how it goes. Like maybe I'll get some free swag. Maybe a distillery will send me some free bottles from time to time. That's really all I started it for. Like that was my main goal. Like get some free socks from Elijah's friend. And you know, oddly enough, like I'm at a bar with a friend one night, and I just take a picture of Midwinter Night's Dram, and I post it to the newly found Dan the Bourbon Man, and it was amazing how quickly and organically the following grew because of the demand. By then, I had already acquired some interesting bottles, you know, one like Thomas H. Handy and William LaRue Weller, I think a couple of Pappy Van Winkles, and I was now just introducing social media into it. So, it just grew organically, and then brands started to get in touch with me in regards to marketing and advertising for them. Gotcha. And it just kept growing. And I think it was during the start of the pandemic where I was like, you know, there's got to be ways to grow this even more. Like I had some extra free time on my hands at that time. And I spoke to my friend who's kind of in like the tech space, who built the website for me. And we just rolled it out and said, you know what, I'm passionate about this. If you're passionate about something, you should do it, you know. Yeah. And if you fail, you learn from it, and you adjust and you move on, and then you see where you can succeed. And so, I mean, we started the free alerts, and that became the VIP alerts, which is now like $5 a month or $20 annually. And I think, you know, we've had tremendous success with that.
I like that. I got so many things, Jack. Where do you go? Because I got about 12,000 questions.
Another perfect example of like someone who starts something with the intention of adding value. Like it's person is simply adding value. He's not looking to derive anything. Like getting some free swag isn't
He's trying to solve a problem.
You're solving the problem. You're adding value. It's funny how many guests on the show who are very successful, yourself included, who simply are just looking to add value. When you add value, you, as a result, derive some value. So I just thought that was really interesting. Wanted to throw that out there. But I also have a question about the demand. The pandemic, I guess, coming into play a little bit, but what is fueling that demand? Because I myself recently really became interested. I'm more I've recently discovered that I absolutely love high-end tequila. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, our lawyer, Catherine. Love it. I have a little dab a day, and I've been doing that for probably the last couple of months. A little dab will do you. But what is is it something is it pandemic fuel? I don't know what changed in my mindset. Is it something that just was the pandemic fuel, this increase in looking for these high-end whiskeys and bourbons? Or do you have any insight into that? I'm asking for myself because I don't know where it came from.
I think the pandemic had something to do with, driving demand up, just because, I think liquor stores were one of the only things open.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Also, it's usually the low supply and the what you can't have that you want that drives the demand. So, it's more people posting these things on social media, more people seeing these items that, are termed as unicorns that they want to find for themselves, and they want to find a good deal for them. So I feel like it's that low supply, and the distilleries are smart. They every year now, I feel like something new and allocated and rare and a limited edition will come out, and people will eat that up.
Yep.
It could be anything, and people will want it as long as it's in short supply.
Well, and to your point, and Jack, this is something that it's kind of funny because as Dan's talking, I never even connected this dot, but again, it's economics, it's business showing up at supply and demand. Because what's also happened in this industry, and Dan, I want to circle back on your perspective on this, but then also how this impacts a guy like you, where now you got to deal with the negativity in the community. And that's something I'd like to ask you for, because I know how people are, they're vicious. A huge problem in the whiskey industry is the secondary market and price gouging. So to give everyone at home context, the way it's regulated, MSRP, these stores are actually told from the distillers what they're supposed to sell these bottles at. A lot of small stores will go and jack them up. So to give you context, there's a bottle, one of the bottles he mentioned, Pappy Van Winkle's the unicorn, the Holy Grail. There's certain MSRP points. There's a store 10 minutes down the road from me where I can go get any bottle of Pappy I want. The problem is it is 15 to 25 times MSRP. So that bottle of lot 12 that he's talking about, I actually won that bottle myself in the lottery a couple of years ago.
Nice.
I think the MSRP on it's up now to maybe $89, $90, something like that. They're selling that bottle for $17.50. That's insane. And if Buffalo Trace found that out, they could cut them off. But it's playing the game. Conversely, the other factors, the around the country factors, one thing that they take for granted down south, up here in us northerners, we can't get, Dan, as you know, they can get Weller, they just walk in a store and grab it. And I'm up my way, people are paying $125 for that bottle, yet down there it's $30 a bottle. No one blinks an eye. So it's kind of these weird little niches. How do you deal with that in this community where it's I've seen some visceral, nasty attacks in the comments where I'm what do you think he's some grand poobah who chooses who gets what? And it's like people are mad at you for doing a good thing. How do you deal with that within a community and regulating that?
That's a good question. I ignore it. I usually ignore any sort of negativity or negative comments. It used to get to me when there were some hateful comments on the feed, or it's oh, you don't actually enjoy whiskey. You just, are there to collect the allocated bottles and as investments. And you know what? They might be right a little bit. Yeah. But I definitely enjoy a good bourbon. And I feel like you're not doing something right if you don't have haters. Like,
yes.
There's always going to be somebody with an opinion that differs from yours. I think you need to look past that and focus on your passion and focus on what you're trying to do and how you're trying to help people and help the community. And and not everybody's going to agree with you, and that's okay. But I don't think you should let that get to you. So that's why I really just focus on the road ahead and growing and adding value, like you mentioned before, instead of looking at the negative aspects of the community, unfortunately.
I like it. I
actually want to throw pull a Jack and throw a quote in.
Mess it up.
Mess up? Yeah, I'll butcher it. But it's a Churchill quote, and it says, "You have enemies, good. That means you stood up for something sometime in your life." So, like, I do think kind of what you were saying, like, if you don't have haters, you're probably not doing it right.
Yeah.
That's producer Jake coming in with the great quotes, the Churchill. Anytime you get Churchill in on a whiskey show, you're doing okay. I just need some Churchill cigars.
Yeah.
We'll be good to go. Which that's actually a perfect transition to a question we ask every guest every week, Dan. What is one book or resource you recommend to the Tell Us Why community?
So recently I've been reading Robert Kiyosaki's books. So I've just read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I highly recommend.
The Bible. Yeah.
It's kind of like the Bible, and I'm on his like sequel book right now. I'm about halfway through Rich Dad's Cashflow Quadrant, which has really opened up my mind in regards to where I am today professionally and where I want to go professionally. I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad will blow your mind when you read that your house is a liability, not an asset. That it is that you're told that it is an asset, but you're not told that it's an asset for the bank, not itself. So that really opened up my mind, and just in regards to cash flow alone and investing, especially with real estate investing, I mean, I feel like that's the next step for me. I feel like that's where I see myself going, learning and educating myself about this world that is new to me, kind of like what I did with bourbon and kind of started completely from scratch and became an expert in the subject. And really seizing those types of opportunities. So I feel like if anybody wants to make a change within their financial, their personal financial situation and wants to go the route of financial freedom and begin that journey, you should definitely read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and follow up with Cashflow Quadrant. I've heard of other good books that I'm probably going to begin after that, like the 4-Hour Work Week. And I mean, I'd say check back on me in like a year and I'll tell you how I'm doing.
We're going to have Dan, the Bourbon Man with Real Estate Guru next to it. We're going to have you on. We'll follow up in a year. But seriously, something he touched on there that all the listeners can take away is that, and Jack, we've talked about this, money's going to come and go. Opportunities are going to come and go. You're going to have wins. You're going to have losses. Your skill set and your self-education, the foundation you're building stays with you.
Yeah.
So the same way Dan, and this is what we talk about, Tell Us Why, it's a great example. Okay, so he might be pivoting to other means now, setting up that foundation that he built through going through the Dan the Bourbon Man experience is going to put him closer to success in anything he does because those skills translate. So very well said. With that said, Jack, are we ready to transition to the big three?
Let's do it.
It's now time for the Big Three segment, brought to you by QS Private Lending. Are you looking to finance your next deal quickly and reliably with less hassle and paperwork? QS Private Lending is one of the oldest and largest hard money lenders to real estate investors in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Our quick and simple short-term loans require no appraisals and have enabled hundreds of builders and investors to profitably acquire and renovate thousands of residential and commercial properties. To experience the QS difference for yourself, call or text Luke Conroy today at 315-323-0250. That's 315-323-0250. QS Private Lending.
Now it is time for the big three. These are the three questions we ask every guest every week, and I will kick it off with the college question. So excluding doctors, lawyers, things of that nature, in your opinion, is college worth it?
All right. You guys are asking the good questions. All right. So when I think of college, I think of two different aspects. I think of the academic aspect, and I think of the social aspect. The academic aspect is crucial for certain professions, as you mentioned, doctors, lawyers. However, if you're like me and you're looking to break into the film, TV world, as I was back then, I personally feel it wasn't a necessity. I learned more in my first 2 months on a set than I did in my years of being in film school. Mm-hmm. You know, being in college, I also had to take on a minor, which I wasn't interested in at all. So I did poorly in that minor, and it took up my time that I could have been exploring something I enjoyed and I wanted to actually educate myself in.
Yep.
That being said, the social aspect of college is much more important in my mind. Like, what I mean by the social aspect are the friendships you form, the extracurriculars you take, and the groups and the clubs that you join. So like, you were just growing up in your comfort zone, right? With the same people for possibly like 18 years. And now you find yourself in a new environment with new people, some of who you like, some of who you don't. And that's exactly what happens when you're thrown into the workforce after graduating. You know, new environment, new people, you need to know how to traverse that situation. So knowing how to deal with people in real life and real life situations is like the best education you're going to get in the real world and in business. Yeah. When I was in college, which I went to college in Boston, and I think you guys are located around there, right?
Yep.
Did you go to Emerson?
No, I went to BU.
Oh, okay.
So
we had everybody in that industry is either from Emerson or we've had a couple of guests from Emerson.
Emerson. Yeah. Oh, really? Every single set and production I've worked on is filled with Emerson graduates. Like, they're everywhere in the industry.
Yeah, we know. We're stuck with one here.
Emerson.
So when I was there, I took up writing, camera operating. I was even acting in the university's TV shows. I was dealing with people in different departments and watching how a production all comes together quite magically when people work together. I was appointed to the executive board of an in-house university ad agency called Ad Lab, where we worked with real clients. I was producing, editing, directing commercials that were actually airing on TV. And these were all my extracurricular types of things. And they really taught me how to problem solve, be creative, work alongside others. And when we had differences in opinions, we worked them out in a civilized way. So this was much better experience than I felt like I had in a classroom, but going to college gave me all these opportunities.
Yep.
And that's what college is all about. You need to find your opportunities, much like the real world, the opportunities might not be in the lecture that you're in or in the textbook that's in front of you. You need to see the shades of gray.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue into the next question we ask every guest every week. What is one piece of actionable advice you go back and give to your 18-year-old self?
Don't be afraid to fail. Fail more. Learn from the things you failed in. Adjust and succeed. You don't learn that much when you succeed all the time.
Yes.
Facts.
Go back.
Spitting facts.
Go back and listen to that about 100 times on repeat. And people on first listen will not get how impactful it is. Incredibly well said, Dan. Great answer.
Okay, so now, other end of the spectrum, what is one thing you would want your 90-year-old self to say to you?
I think my 90-year-old self would say, "Oh my God, you made it to 90."
All that whiskey, it helps, you know.
Dude, seriously. I think my 90-year-old self would just be extremely surprised. But no, more seriously, I hope they'd say, "Good job. It's been one hell of a ride. You took risks. You failed here and there, but you learned from your mistakes. You adjusted. You succeeded. You did right by your family for generations to come." And yeah, I think that's what I'd hope they'd say.
That was a great one.
That's awesome. I'll even forgive the fact that I know you're a New Yorker. That changes everything because that answer is so good. So I'll let that go. Where can people get in touch and learn more about you and connect with you, Dan?
Well, they can check me out on Instagram at Dan the Bourbon Man, TikTok at Dan the Bourbon Man, or they could check me out at danthebourbonman.com. That's where you can sign up to be a VIP member, getting real-time bourbon alerts, or you could sign up for the free alerts, which come a few times a week, right there on the website.
That's awesome.
Perfect. All those links will be in the show notes below. Dan, before we let you go, is there anything else you want to tell our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this, I really would say what I said before about failing. Like, if you have a dream, if you have a passion, go for it. Go for it when you're on the younger side, because I feel like, you know, when you make mistakes when you're younger, you're able to bounce back quicker. So don't be afraid to fail. Really, like, set your dreams and go get them.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Jack, where can people get in touch and learn more about the Tell Us Why podcast?
Well, you got to check out our community forum on telluswhypodcast.com. If you don't already follow us on social media, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. All the links are in the description below.
All right. Also, check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts: Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, you name it. Click, like, subscribe, leave a rating, review. It's a huge help. You're going to get great content like this every week. Jack, quote of the week.
Too much of anything is bad, but too much of good whiskey is barely enough. Mark Twain.
Words to live by. Words to live by. All right.
That is it for today. Be sure to join us for next week's episode. And until next week,
bet on yourself.